Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of the lives of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. After so many months or days, we were waiting to eagerly to study the lives of the direct disciples, and the Lord has made it possible for all of us to get this wonderful opportunity. Without any delay, we shall start with the studying and meditating on this wonderful life of Swami Ramakrishnananda ji Maharaj. That is, the pre-monastic name of Ramakrishnananda ji Maharaj was Shashi Bhushana Chakravarti. Now, this great soul, Shashi Bhushana Chakravarti, or Swami Ramakrishnananda ji Maharaj, as every direct disciple has some speciality to show for us. What is the speciality of Swami Ramakrishnananda ji Maharaj? Guru Bhakti. If we want to understand how should we serve the Guru, what is the devotion to the Guru, we can see it in the life of Swami Ramakrishnananda ji. Now, let us enter the proper life of Swami Ramakrishnananda ji Maharaj. How can one open the door of truth? Sri Ramakrishna told the secret to his disciples. The key to this room has to be turned the reverse way. Worldly means are of no avail to one who wants to attain the knowledge of God. God has to be attained. His God realization cannot be attained by worldly ways. Knowledge is of two kinds. What are they? Lower or secular, and higher or spiritual. Now we have the knowledge of breadwinning, bread and butter. So we get the knowledge to earn money. So that is the lower knowledge. Then we have another knowledge which gives us the liberation. That's called higher paravidya or spiritual. How does the secular knowledge help us? We need not go to the details because everyone knows that. Secular knowledge pertains to this world, like all book learning and even scriptural knowledge fall into this category. Higher or spiritual knowledge opens the door of the truth. We have to know what is the reality of this world. What is the reality behind this life? When a person attains to this knowledge through spiritual pursuits, he or she transcends the realm of ignorance or Maya, and we become free forever. When Swami Ramakrishnananda, then Shashi Bhushana Chakravarti, was young, He desperately sought higher knowledge from various means. Firstly, because he was exposed to the English education in Calcutta, he sought higher knowledge from Bible, from the Hindu scriptures, also from the lives and teachings of mystics. He was told by one of his friends that a great amount of wisdom was hidden in the writings of Sufi mystics. Who are Sufis? Now, after coming to the contact with the Hindu religion or Indian culture, Islam also was exposed to the Hindu way of going towards God. The amalgamation brought into a new system called the Sufi system, which is somewhat liberal compared to the original Islam religion. So they try to attain God realization through the means of Islam. So that is a very special way of getting into God. It is very near to close to Hindu religion. Now, Shashi recalled, I had heard a great deal about the beauties of Sufi poets. So I determined to learn Persian in order to able to read them in the original. I bought several Persian textbooks and began to study most diligently. Often, when I was at Dakshineshwar, I would go off to some corner. He has come to serve and hear from Sri Ramakrishna, but instead, now he was very much busy in studying Persia, Persian language, because by studying Persian, he could get into the originals where he could read about the Sufi saints. So he was determined to learn Persian in order to be able to read the teachings of the Sufi saints in original. So Shishibhushan Chakravarti bought several Persian textbooks and he was very busy reading them. When he went to Dakshineshwar too, he would go off to some corner with those books instead of staying to serve Sri Ramakrishna, his Guru. One day it so happened he has gone to some corner and reading those Persian grammar and Persian books to study the language of Persia. He's very concentrated now. Sri Ramakrishna called him. He could not hear it. So Sri Ramakrishna called for the second time, the third time. But Shashi was not aware of it. Afterwards, when I came to him, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "What were you doing?" Now Shashi I told him that he was reading Persian books. He was immersed in that and he couldn't hear. Now Sri Ramakrishna said in a calm way, "My dear child, if you neglect your duty, seva, Guru seva, seva of the Guru, my dear child, if you neglect your duty, in order to learn Persian, you will lose what little devotion you have. We gain faith, Shraddha, we gain bhakti, devotion. He is the one, the Guru is the one who shows us the path towards realization. Now, if we neglect, if we do not do the service of the Guru properly, What happens? Ramakrishna is telling Shishi, whatever little devotion you have, if you neglect your duty of serving the Guru Seva Prada, if you neglect your duty in order to learn Persian, you will lose whatever little devotion you have. Not many words, but they sufficed. Those calm words of Sri Ramakrishna. If you neglect the service of the Guru, you will lose whatever little devotion you have. These words were enough. By that time, Ramakrishnananda ji or Shishi Bhushana Chakravarti had purchased 15 or 20 rupees. In those days, 15 or 20 rupees was very huge. Now, Shishibhushan Chakravarti had purchased so many books with that 15 or 20 books, 15 or 20 rupees. So, just these words of Sri Ramakrishna were enough for him. Shishi threw all those books into Ganga, and he never did that mistake of neglecting the words or the service of the Guru afterwards. That was the last. He threw all of those books, costly books, into Ganga. Shishibhushana Chakravarti was born at 4:56 a.m. on Monday. Today is Monday. 13th July. This is also the month of July, but it is 18th. But in which year? 1863. 4:56 a.m. on Monday, 13th July 1863. In Bengal, there is a village called Ichhapur in the Hooghly district, West Bengal. Hooghly is the name of another name of river Ganga. In Bengal, they call this Ganga as Hooghly. Now, he was the eldest son of 8 children. On the spot or where the birthplace or the house of Ramakrishnananda ji existed, now they have taken it over and built a temple of Sri Ramakrishna there in memory of Shishibhushana Chakravarti or Ramakrishnananda ji Maharaj. Few years back, maybe some 6 or 7 years back, I visited that place, Ichhapur. Now, Shishibhushana Chakravarti was the eldest of the 8 children. What was the name of his father? Ishwar Chandra Chakravarti. He was a Pandit, a scholar in the court of Raja Indranarayana Singh of Paikpara, North Calcutta. Ishwar Chandra was well versed in the Tantra scriptures, and also he knew some of the disciplines, and was a disciple of a great Tantra scholar, Jaganmohana Tarkalankara. He was popular at that time as a famous tantric saint of Bengal. So naturally, when the word Tantra comes, it is associated with Divine Mother. So this Jagan Mohana Tarkalankara, the Guru of the father of Shishibhushan Chakravarti, Ishwar Chandra, he was a very great devotee of the Divine Mother, because Ishwar Chandra knew the disciplines, he had studied the scriptures of Shakta philosophy thoroughly, he would sometimes practice sadhana, spiritual disciplines, at the at night in the cremation grounds, which is considered to be an auspicious place for tantric sadhana. It is said that one night Ishwar Chandra saw the Divine Mother in the form of he had the vision of the Divine Mother in the form of a little girl who directed him to follow her, and then she disappeared into the temple. So you can see Ishwar Chandra was a great devotee of Divine Mother. He was already doing many spiritual sadhanas. He was serious about spiritual life. Then what about the mother of Shishibhushan Chakravarti, wife of Ishwar Chandra? Her name was Bhavasundari Devi. Bhava means Shiva. Shiva's another name is Bhava. And this world, the name of this world is also called Bhava. Bhavasundari is the name of Divine Mother Uma or Parvati or Durga Devi. So that name was given to the mother of Shashi Bhushana. Bhavasundari Devi, the mother of Shashi. She was a guileless, that is very simple, no crookedness, very simple, Sarala. She was a guileless, pious woman. She was so shy that she would put on a veil. In India, they cover the upper portion of the sari on their faces like this. Even now, you can see that in some parts of India. So during that period, this custom was very prevalent. Now, she was so shy that she would put a veil over her face, even in front of her son, Shashi. Shashi Bhushan Chakravarti was brought up in spiritual surroundings by his orthodox Brahmin parents, Brahmana. So, in the varnasrama dharma, there are four varnas. What are they? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. What is meant by Shudra? There is nothing high or low. As Sri Krishna states it, they are decided not by birth, but by the dint of their virtues, character, and also it is decided by the work they do. They have some natural inclination to do some work. They have some character, guna, and karma. Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, this varnashrama dharma is not the present caste system. It's in no way connected to that. See, whenever any good practices are stretched to the extreme, later on it becomes a positive evil. So the varnashrama dharma is no way connected to the present day caste system. So what is this varnashrama dharma? As I told you, it is based on, as Krishna tells, and it was also the same thing from time immemorial, from the Satya Yuga. In the Satya Yuga, there was no caste system. Everyone, Swami Vivekananda tells in the complete work, everyone were Brahmanas. So when they couldn't follow that higher standard of life, they had to be given a little lower ideal. Why? What for? The goal of human beings, according to this Hindu philosophy, is realizing your own self or God. So to keep up that ideal, so all these varnashrama dharma were done so that according to your work, according to your nature, you can do the work by which it will take you to God. So what is this varnasrama dharma, or the in this varnasrama dharma, what is this shudra? It is neither low or high. So by your guna and dharma, by your character, by your nature, and the work you do, karma. So you were a Vaishya. What is that? If you do the work, you use your physical strength and the mental strength and everything to serve your own master, or anybody for that sake, a company or whatever. Now, present day, it will be a company for earning money for your livelihood. If you work under somebody, some company, for earning money for your livelihood, that is called Shudratva. It's again nothing higher or lower. It is by the work you do and the nature, your character. That's all. It's not by birth. It was never decided by birth. It is the character, guna, and the work. Anybody working under anybody, somebody, or a company for the sake of money, that is Shudratva. That's all. Nothing higher, nothing low. Then what is the other thing is Vaishya. Vaishyatva. It is not by birth, it is by the dint of your character, guna, and karma, the work you do. If we do the cattle rearing, it's animal husbandry, agriculture, commerce, business, and other things for the sake of money, gaining wealth, so that is called Vaishyatva. That's all, nothing else. You are working, you are for the sake of earning money under somebody or a company for the sake of money is called Shudratva. If you do cattle rearing, agriculture, your own, not under somebody. You are the master, you are the owner. You run a company, commerce, business. You have land, you till it, you grow it. You have so many workers for the sake of money. Then animals like sheep, hen or fish or whatever, the cows, you rear the cows for the sake of milk and sell the milk for money. Then all the other businesses, animal husbandry, agriculture. So whatever you do to earn, gain more wealth and money, that work and the nature which you have is called Vaishyatva. Vaishya. So what is the other varna? It is Kshatriya. Kshatat trayate iti Kshatriya. You use your physical strength, the mental strength, and all that for the sake of protecting dharma, righteousness. So Kshata means broken. What is broken? Adharma. Unrighteousness is Kshata, broken. So why do you call the rice which we give to God in the puja Akshata, unbroken? So Kshata means broken. What is the meaning of broken? That is adharma, unrighteousness. Kshatat trayate, one who protects other people from adharma, unrighteousness. One who fight against this unrighteousness and protects the righteousness. He protects the righteous people and also the righteousness from the unrighteous. So that is Kshatat Trayate iti Kshatriya. Uses, he is very strong. He has the intellectual acumen and also the physical strength. So he uses that not for earning money, but to protect the country, the countrymen from unrighteousness, who will fight against the unrighteousness and maintains the righteousness. So he is called Kshatriya. Again, it is not by birth, but it is by the work you do and the guna, the character. Okay. What is Brahmanatva? Brahmana, the next Varna. All are done in such a way that your nature and the work you do should lead you to God realization. The God realization was the goal. Hinduism and India, from time immemorial, has kept its goal as God realization. So, what is this Varna? The Brahmana Dharma or Brahmanatva. If you are not working for the sake of money, but for knowing the truth, realizing God. God is your goal. Just God. Truth. Realizing yourself. Truth. To understand the truth, you use all your strength, physical, mental, emotional, everything, for realizing the truth, not for money. That's why nowhere in the Puranas can you find, or anywhere, a rich Brahmana. Brahmanas would take up poverty as an ornament. They would subsist, live by begging food, alms. So they used to depend upon the other varnas for their maintenance. But their goal was only finding the truth and truth alone. No money, no enjoyment, no luxury. The whole life was austerity and knowing, just like scientists of the present day. They are not bothered about luxuries and other enjoyments. They are just like the scientists of the present day, working hard to find newer truths which will benefit the humanity. Always praying for the welfare of the world, welfare of the humanity, working for that sake. Anybody, it's not by birth, anybody doing that, having this character, using all his strength, mental and physical and everything to find the truth that is God, going towards that truth, they are called Brahmanas. That's all, nothing else. So then, what is all that now the present day caste system which we find? Now we connected to that. Then later on, people, for example, I will give an example. Now there are the defense personals, military. If you join the defense forces, naturally, the children will get reservation in that country's defense forces. They can join the defense forces easily. Now every father or mother wants to make their own children join the same work which the father is doing. So the son may not be fit. He can't even hear the sound of a cracker. But if he goes to the military forces, what will happen? So the quality comes down. He doesn't have the capability, he joins the military, he is forced to join the military, and the quality of that person comes down. Then to attain that, he will get into the wrong means to be in the defense forces, though he doesn't have the capability by guna and dharma and karma, he doesn't have that capacity. So there will form a group, a guild, so to protect their interest. So then it goes on forming a group, a sect, a caste. So that is how the caste system came. It is not given in the scriptures. The scriptures have given based on their guna and karma. So a person cannot, now the father is a doctor. He wants his also child to become a son or the daughter to become a doctor. They don't have the capacity. They may not be having the liking. The father will force them. Now you see the quality of the doctor comes down. So he should become a doctor. He should become a defense personnel. He should become a worker according to his nature and his liking. When something is forced upon them due to various circumstances, then over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, this has been coming since time immemorial from the time of the creation. Hinduism is following that. So naturally, you can see that all these different caste system came into being. It is not there in the Hindu Dharma. It's but natural. Any organization, any group Over many, many years, they degenerate into so many other different things. As I told you, the wonderful saying of Swami Vivekananda, any good practice stretched to the extreme will become a positive evil. So, like that, anything followed over any organization, any group, any ventures, any startup over a long period, they degenerate. So, like that, this too has degenerated into this caste system. It is not connected. Can you give some examples that it is not the present day caste system, but it was not based on the birth, or it was based on the guna and dharma? So many examples are there. Who was Parashurama? By birth, he was the son of a rishi, Jamadagni. So, according to the caste system, he will call Brahmana. But by his guna and his karma, the action, he fought against the bad Kshatriyas. He took the arms against bad Kshatriya when the Kshatriyas were doing the wrong things and destroyed that unrighteousness. So, by the dint of work, by the dint of his guna, he became a Kshatriya. Though he was born as a Brahmana in the caste or in the family of Brahmana, by the work he did, he became a Kshatriya. Any other examples? Yes, Valmiki was born as a hunter or a highway robber. He did the work of the highway robber. He was born into the family of the hunters. He was a tribal. But by the dint of his guna and karma, he became a Brahmana. He is worshipped. He is the giver of Ramayana. Great Rishi, the first pottery. It's called Ramayana. Valmiki became by his work, by his guna, he became the Brahmana. It is Brahmanatva, not by birth. By birth he was a tribal person, and by birth he was a highway robber. By the work he did, he was a highway, not by birth, but by the work he did was a highway robber. But later on he got transformed into a Brahmana. So it is not the caste system. Any other example? Vyasa Maharshi. He was the son of a fisherwoman. Then Vasishta. He was also not a born Brahmana. Like that, you can go on seeing so many examples. Vishwamitra. By birth, he was a Kshatriya. He was a king, Kaushika Maharaja. By the dint of his character and work, he became a Mahabrahmana. He gave the Gayatri mantra, one of the mantra drashtara. So, which it is considered as the highest, greatest mantras of the Vedas. By birth, he was not a Brahmana. Then Jabala, Satyakama. By birth, no caste at all. His mother was a dasi, prostitute, and didn't know who the father was. Now, when he went to the rishi, he wanted to that boy, as a boy, Jabala, the son of Jabala, wanted to become a student, study very well. He went to the Gurukula. As usual, in the school, they will ask you, who is your father, who is your mother? Now, when asked, he came to mother and asked. Mother told, I do not know. I'm a dasi, I'm a prostitute. So many people, so many men used to come. I don't know whom you are born to. He went and told the same truth to the rishi there of the Gurukula. Then the rishi was very much surprised. All tried to hide all those such things. Now Karna hid his birth. He didn't want to tell that he was a son of a charioteer, because he wanted to learn archery and other weaponaries. But here this boy told the truth. Immediately the rishi told, you are so much loving the truth that you tell the truth, you are attached to the truth. So you are a Brahmana. Because you love truth, you have not given up your truth, you are a Brahmana. By your guna, come, I will take you to my Gurukula. And he started giving him all the knowledge. See, he was a son of a prostitute. And he didn't know who the father was. No caste, nothing. You are a Brahmana because you love truth. By guna, you are a Brahmana. Tva, Brahmanatva, not by birth. And he became one of the greatest rishis of the Vedas. Javala Satyakama is known by his mother's name and Satya Kama. Satya means truth. Kama means the lover of truth. He didn't even have a name. He was given the name of the mother, a prostitute, and he got the name because of his truthfulness. Java ala Satya Kama. He was a rishi. So these are all these things, our original things were the varnasrama dharma based on the work we do and by the nature. Why all these things were done? So that through that they will guide their life to God realization. The goal was God realization. Again, Swami Vivekananda tells, Prana Pakshi, the life force of different societies, different countries will be different. Take up England from time immemorial, or their history, not immemorial, their time, their history is very after the Roman Empire. You can see the history of Great Britain. So their Prana Pakshi or their life force is politics. You take up the Greek civilization, they will have some Prana Pakshi. You take up the country then called Russia, it was communism, protecting the masses, the workforce. Then you take up another country, America, business, capitalism, money, that is there. Other European countries, gold, finding gold, gold hunt. So every country, every society, Vivekananda tells, has some life force, prana pakshi. So likewise, what about India? From the beginning, the Hindu culture or Indian culture, their prana pakshi is dharma, religion. Religion in the not in the sense what the Western world use, it is dharma. Dharma means righteousness. Dharma, religion is its goal. What is the goal of religion? God realization. So that is the pranapakshi of Indians and Hindus. From the beginning of the history, maybe 60,000 years or 100,000 years or even more. So the life force they have been maintaining, the pranapakshi as God realization, dharma. And now see, so many civilization came. Where is Greek civilization? It's not there. Where is Roman civilization? It is not there. Where is Atlanta civilization? It's not there. Where is Mesopotamian civilization? Where is Assyrian civilization? Where is Egyptian civilization? Where is Persian civilization? Where is Babylonian civilization? Gone. Nowhere. You have to study in the history of the museums. What about the Hindu civilization, Indian civilization? Still alive, active. Nobody can destroy it. Why? They have this life force, pranapakshi, as dharma. See, where is British? Now it's gone. The power of British, they were ruling the whole world, where the sun never set, the land, the kingdom where the sun would never set, because they had conquered almost everywhere. They had their colony everywhere over the globe. Then now, after that, America took over. Now see, America is also declining. Then China became strong, Japan became strong, they're coming down. India had gone to the lowest plane. Now you see it is coming up again, the civilization, because they have kept the goal, the pranapakshi as dharma, righteousness. There is no defeat to the righteousness. It's a temporary setback. Satyam eva jayate, satyam eva jayate. Truth alone prevails. So the Indian civilization has got hold of truth. So now he had taken that ideal of the Brahmanas was God realization, knowing the truth, not money. So poverty was taken as an ornament. Poverty, purity, all these were taken as ornament. So now he was born into that family. That is Brahmanatva, the guna. So Shashi was brought up in a spiritual surroundings by his orthodox Brahmin parents. Ishwar Chandra, father, worshipped his family deities daily and he performed an elaborate Kali worship once a year. When Shashi was a boy, he learnt ritualistic worship from his saintly father. During the annual autumn worship of Mother Durga, we celebrate the autumn worship of Mother Durga Puja Navaratri. There are 4 Navaratris. The autumn Navaratri is very popular. So, during the annual autumn worship of Mother Durga, Shishi, the small boy, would perform the worship service, the ritual, japa, meditation, and chanting for continuously 24 hours at a stretch without leaving his seat. Suppose now in the morning he would take bath in empty stomach. Fasting, he would sit on one seat. If he starts doing the japa, worship, and all the other things, puja, meditation, chanting of the Durga Saptashati, doing the rituals, havan, one seat. The moment he sits there, he would not get up. Without break, 24 hours, he used to do all these activities. So you could see that spiritual nature in Shashi from his childhood. And he was born into that Orthodox family. So naturally, all these things will come. It's but natural. So he would do all those things. Shashi would perform the worship service, rituals, japa, meditation, chanting for 24 hours at a stretch without leaving his seat. Physical discipline alone cannot account for such a feat of endurance. Only Shashi's orthodox upbringing, tremendous willpower, deep spiritual absorption, and divine intoxication can explain this phenomena. Now, at the same time, gaining all these things is also gaining the Western education side by side. So, after finishing his education in the village school, in 1836, Macaulay had introduced the English education. So now it is 1863. So all in India are getting the English education. So now Shashi too, after finishing his education in the village school, Shashi went to Calcutta for higher education, English education. He lived with his cousin Sharat Chandra Chakravarti. Who is this cousin Sharat Chandra Chakravarti? Is none other than the writer of the life of Sri Ramakrishna, Lila Prasanga. We have studied his life already. That is Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, who became Swami Sharadananda Ji Maharaj, later Swami Sharadananda, was almost his contemporary. He passed the Calcutta University entrance examination, that is Shashi, and as he was a brilliant student, he won a scholarship too. Now Shashi passed his first arts examination from Albert College. Then he entered the Metropolitan College, now Vidyasagar College, for his bachelor degree, BA, Bachelor of Arts. He had a wonderful academic record in college. His special subjects of study were Sanskrit, that is Samskrita, and English literature, then mathematics and philosophy. These were his favorite subjects. During their college days, both Sharat Chandra Chakravarti and Shashibhushana Chakravarti became members of the Brahma Samaj and were inspired by the lectures of Keshav Chandra Sen, the great Brahmo leader then. For a certain period, Shashi privately tutored Keshav's children, Keshav's son. So even Shashibhushana Chakravarti used to take tuition classes, tutored the children of the sons of Keshav Chandra Sen. Now, all these were the early life of Shashibhushana Chakravarti. Now we are eager, all of us are eager to see how Shashi came to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Shashi and his young friends first heard about Sri Ramakrishna from Keshav Chandra Sen, who was the head of the Brahma Samaj at that time. Shashi heard all this about Ramakrishna from Keshav Chandra Sen. Keshav, who spoke highly of the saint of Dakshineshwar to his congregation in Brahma Samaj. So here Shashi heard about Ramakrishna. Now these young boys, Shashi and Sharat, they said to each other, if Keshav Chandra Sen, whom we honor so much, shows such great reverence for this Paramahamsa, an illumined soul. So the people who go forward in spiritual life, because of their different level of attainment of spiritual life, they get different titles at which level they are. Rishi, Paramahamsa, Guru, so many other things you can see they will be having these things according to their spiritual attainment. So at that time they were calling Ramakrishna as the Paramahamsa, meaning an illumined soul. So if Keshav Chandra Sen is talking so much and showing so much of reverence to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, because he himself is so great, Keshav Chandra Sen was so great that to hear his lectures, the British Queen of that time, the Queen of England, used to come, or he would be called to the palace to hear the lecture. That was the popularity of Keshav Chandra Sen at that time. So all had lot of respect towards Keshav. So if Keshav Chandra Sen himself, we honor him so much, Shashi and Sharat thought, shows so much of great reverence to this Paramahamsa, Ramakrishna, there must be something extraordinary in him. Now, this young Shashi, later on, as Ramakrishnananda, he recalls, what did he tell about Ramakrishna? It was really, now these are the words, direct words of Ramakrishnananda. It was really Keshav Chandra Sen who may be said to have discovered Sri Ramakrishna, and he made him known to the world. Otherwise, Ramakrishna would never come to tell anything about him. He would not go, and in the way we do the lectures and other things, he was not popular in that way. He would just do the sadhana and speak about God in Dakshineshwar, tell to other people about God, live the life, that's all. So there should be some people who take that wonderful teachings and life and spread it outside. So the first person was Keshav. Later on, the direct disciples like Swami Vivekananda prominently and all other direct disciples and all other household disciples, they took the teachings, the words and life of Ramakrishna to the world. But who was the first? It was really Keshav Chandra Sen who may be said to have discovered Sri Ramakrishna. And who is telling this? Ramakrishnananda ji is telling this. It was really Keshav Chandra Sen who may be said to have discovered Sri Ramakrishna and made him known to the world. At that time, Keshav was the most prominent figure in Calcutta. His church was always crowded. So the Hindu church, where the Brahma Samaj, they would not believe or do any ritualistic worship. They would not believe God with form. Theirs was a special type of Hinduism whereby by the influence of the Western world, the Semitic religions, they would not take up ritualistic worship, image worship. It was only God without form but with qualities. It is Saguna Nirakara Brahma, Parabrahma. So his church was crowded, and many young men were his ardent admirers. It was indeed impossible not to be moved by him. Such was his personality. When he stood in his church, dressed in his white robe, and talked with God, the tears streaming down his face, there was not a dry eye in the whole congregation. He was really great soul and a true devotee. Now, as a young boy, Ramakrishnananda or Shashi, the hunger for God, the thirst for God realization, the hunger. See, hunger for knowledge, if you have hunger and thirst, intense hunger and thirst for knowledge, you are called a student. You become a sadhaka, jignasu, or mokshu when you have hunger for God. So the hunger for God, you think that you are there is only hunger for food. No, there is food for thought, food for soul. So here Shashi had that hunger for God, made young Shashi restless. Keshav inspired him immensely, but could not fully satiate his spiritual hunger. One day, in October 1883, both Shashi, Sharat, and some of their friends went to Dakshineshwar to visit Sri Ramakrishna. They found the master seated on a small couch in his room in Dakshineshwar. Now, Ramakrishna received these boys with a smile and asked them to sit on a mat on the floor. He then asked their names and where they lived, and was pleased to know that they belonged to Keshav Chandra Sen Brahma Samaj. At first sight, Sri Ramakrishna recognized Shashi and Sharat as his own. The moment Sri Ramakrishna used to see anybody, Ramakrishna himself used to tell, just like anything kept in a glass box, you can understand what are the contents inside. Likewise, when Ramakrishna could see any human being, any person for that sake, he could know what is in his mind, the thoughts, his past, his present, his future, everything would be revealed. That was the yogic power, that was the highest spiritual knowledge which Sri Ramakrishna, the power had he gained, that he could easily understand the past, the future, the present, and everything of that person. So as soon as he saw both Shashi and Sharat, Ramakrishna recognized them, both of them as his own. Sensing their spirit of renunciation, the master said, bricks and tiles, if burnt with the trademark on them, we use in South Africa here a lot of bricks and tiles, In the industry, they put a mark on them to show which company or whatever they want to show. So Ramakrishna is giving that wonderful example, bricks and tiles, if burnt with the trademark on them, retain their marks forever. Similarly, you should enter the world after advancing a little in the path of spirituality. So our children, the youth, from the childhood, have to be given spiritual knowledge, training, disciplines of spiritual life. Then if you enter the world, then there is no chances of them falling or getting into trouble. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is telling. So from the childhood, children are to be exposed to spiritual life. They should be practicing spirituality, the yoga, and other things, whereby now they get sufficient strength of character. And when they go to the world, the vagaries, the problems, the circumstances of the world now cannot delude them or put them into trouble. so they can withstand all those things. So that's why Ramakrishna is telling bricks and tiles, if burnt with the trademark on them, they retain those marks forever. Similarly, all of us should enter the world, the worldly life, after advancing a little in the path of spirituality. Then Sri Ramakrishna is telling, then you will not sink in the mire of worldliness. Then you can safely travel from this side of the world to the other side of the world. Your whole life will be in peace. But Ramakrishna is sadly mentioning nowadays parents get their boys married while quite young, and they are not trained, they do not know anything about spirituality. Their goal will be only to earn money and luxury. So Ramakrishna is telling, but nowadays parents get their boys married while quite young and thus pave the way to their ruin. So Ramakrishna is not against the system of marriage. Never is he against that. But why many times Ramakrishna would ask them, are you married? He even asked Mahendranath Gupta, the recorder of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When he came to know he was married at that young age and he had children, he started calling others and telling them, making fun, he's already married, he's having children. So people generally think, oh, Ramakrishna is against this system of marriage. No, not at all. He was not against householders, he was not against marriage or worldly life. But you can understand from the childhood, if they are trained in spirituality, if you are given the training in spiritual disciplines, then if you enter into the worldly life, there will be no problem. You will not be disturbed by the different difficulties which will come in the worldly life, or the attractions which take away our mind, which drowns us into the worldliness. All that will not affect us. That is why Sri Ramakrishna used to tell, and he is also telling, he is not against anything. But why is he telling? Nowadays, parents get their children married while quite young and thus pave the way to their ruin. Why? The children come out of the school to find themselves already fathers of several children. So they run hither and thither in search of job. And why? To maintain the family. With great difficulty, perhaps they find one job, but are hard pressed to feed so many mouths with that small income. They become naturally anxious to earn more money, and therefore they find little time to think of God. So Ramakrishna is not against the system of marriage, but he is telling should train them before in yoga, in spirituality, build their character, and then allowed to go to the worldly life if they like. Then they will not be in trouble. Otherwise, you push them into this already before in their studies they are married, before they get a job or come out of the education, they have already so many children. Where is the time to think of God? Where is the time to build their character? So that's why Ramakrishna is telling that you should train the children from catch them very young. Now, somebody is asking, then, sir, is it wrong to marry? Is it against the will of God? Asked one of the boys in that congregation when Sharat and Shishi were also there, other boys were there, so many other people were there. So one of the person asked Sri Ramakrishna, then, sir, is it wrong to marry? He didn't understand the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna properly. He's asking the question like many people do. Is it against the will of God to marry? Asked one of the boys. The master asked him to take a certain book down from the shelf and directed him to read a particular passage that quoted Christ's opinion of marriage. See, Ramakrishna had photographic memory. Whatever he would study or see once in his lifetime, he would never forget. Now he had studied Bible, he had practiced Christianity, and he had got the realization of Christ. So now he remembers every page of Bible. He's asking, take down that book and go to that particular page and read that passage to the people, and you will come to know what Christ has told about marriage. Now the master asked him to take a certain book down from the shelf and then directed him to read a particular passage that quoted Christ's opinion of marriage. And what has Christ told about marriage? For there are some eunuchs which were so born. So some people, while they are born eunuchs. The people who do not have the capacity to reproduce, they're called eunuchs. So Christ is telling, for there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb. But there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. By birth, they are not so. But they may be caught hold of by some group of eunuchs, and forcibly they may make him another. So that is what Christ is mentioning here in the Bible. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb. There are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. And there may be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. So they will give up all these things, the sensual pleasures, for the sake of God, for realizing God. They sacrifice everything. And now, because at that time of the Christ, sannyasa, the life of renunciation, was not popular among the Jews of the Old Testament in those days society. So if you tell sannyasa, nobody will understand. So now Jesus Christ is explaining in this fashion. There are some who are not eunuchs by birth, but for the sake of kingdom of God, to attain God, they become eunuchs. They be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. There is no force for anybody. The natural tendency to love God. So for the sake of kingdom of God, they sacrifice everything. It is for them. So other people, you please go on continuing in the world. Nobody is asking you not to marry or criticizing the householder's life or anything. No, not at all. So by giving this teaching of Christ, Ramakrishna is so nicely explaining. Now, the master then asked him to read Saint Paul. I say, therefore, to the unmarried and widows. See, Ramakrishna knew so much of Bible. We tell Ramakrishna that he was uneducated. He is more educated. Real education was Ramakrishna's. So now you can see he is telling from Saint Paul. What is that? I say, therefore, to the unmarried and the widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I, himself, Saint Paul. It is good for them, for the unmarried and the widows. It is good for them if they abide even as I. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. This sentence now, he tells Saint Paul, is very wonderful. What is that? For it is better to marry than to burn. It is better to marry than to burn. So All this life of sannyasa or renunciation is for purely for those who have intense renunciation to realize God. Others, please marry. There's no obligation or there is no force. Nobody can criticize. Each is great in his own place. Swami Vivekananda tells you can't criticize a householder or a sannyasin or a brahmacharin. Each is great in his own place. Now, while Ramakrishna was telling about it to Shashi and others, someone interrupted saying, do you mean to say, sir, that marriage is against the will of God? And how can his creation go on if people cease to marry? See, even after explanation, so much of explanation in the correct way, some people, they are doubting Thomases. They go on asking questions. They don't understand at all. They don't catch the spirit. So now this person interrupted Ramakrishna's sayings there and he's telling, do you mean to say, sir, the marriage is against the will of God? And that too is so worried about his creation of God. He wanted to maintain the creation of God. And he's asking, how can God's creation go on if people cease to marry? Sri Ramakrishna smiled at his ignorance and said, don't worry about the continuation of the creation. Don't worry about that. Those who wish to marry are at perfect liberty to do so. What I said just now was between ourselves. Only those boys who have the tendency to realize God. He could see his past, their past life. Now he's telling in the past lives, these two, Sharat and Shashi, were the disciples of Christ. Don't worry about those who wish to marry they are at perfect liberty to do so. What I said just now was between ourselves. I speak on what I have got to say. You take as much of it as you like and no more. Sri Ramakrishna now asked Shashi whether he believed in God with form or without form. Shashi replied frankly, sir, I am not certain about the very existence of God. I don't know whether God exists or not. I am not yet certain about whether God exists or not. So I am not able to speak one way or the other. How can I tell I will like God with form or God without form? He is very frank. Sir, I am not certain about the very existence of God, so I am not able to speak one way or the other. This simple and direct reply pleased Sri Ramakrishna very much. When the boys took leave of them, the master said to Shashi, please come again alone. After first meeting, Shashi felt an irresistible attraction to Sri Ramakrishna. Whenever devotees used to go to Sri Ramakrishna, in the last, when they were about to take leave, he used to tell, Abar Eshu, come again. Anybody hearing those words, the loving words of Sri Ramakrishna, come again, that was enough. They would become restless. They couldn't wait until they used to go to Ramakrishna again and meet him. Similarly, after the first meeting, Shashi felt an irresistible attraction for Sri Ramakrishna and he began to visit him frequently. Now, Shashi is telling, after I had listened to Sri Ramakrishna, Shashi later recalled, I had nothing more to say. I did not have to talk. Often I would go to him with my mind full of doubts, which I wished him to clear away. But when I reached the temple, I would found I would find his room full of people. and would feel very much disappointed that I cannot ask those questions in front of everybody. As soon as he saw me, he would say, "Come in, sit down, my dear boy. Are you doing well?" Then he would return to his subject, but invariably, the surprising thing was Ramakrishna would take up that very doubt in my mind that was troubling my mind and clear it away completely. That was the speciality of Sri Ramakrishna. Whatever doubts you would have, many of us devotees too have told me that when we are reading the life of direct disciples of life of Ramakrishna, teachings of Ramakrishna, so many doubts of them would be taken up by Ramakrishna's teaching or the incidences in the life, and their doubts would be cleared. Likewise, here Shashi is also telling that he would be having so many doubts. There were so many people there, and he was feeling shy to ask them. But Ramakrishna would continue his conversation. But to his surprise, those very doubts which were lingering in his mind would be taken up by Ramakrishna, and they would be answered, and his mind would be clear. That is the speciality of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, I think we have come to the end of our time. It's so surprising. So how the 1.5 hours went past by. That is the speciality of the life of the direct disciples, the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Though we are studying the life of these great direct disciples who become sannyasis later on, but it is woven around life of Ramakrishna only. We are again meditating on Ramakrishna. We are so eager because we wanted to know how Shishibhushan Chakravarti will aspire, go meet Ramakrishna and get that wonderful teaching to fulfill his life mission, that is God realization. So now let us meditate on that. Wait for the next session. Tomorrow is Tuesday. I think we will not be having the class. So again, we will meet. So Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday is our direct disciple sessions, 4 classes in a week. So we will meet again on Thursday. We have to wait until then. We can study this life again, go back, revise it, meditate on that, and get the joy of spirituality. So we will continue this very same session on next Thursday and Friday, then again Sunday and Saturday. Today evening, we are starting again the class or the discussion on Mandukya Upanishad and its Karika. So at the same time in the evening, 6 o'clock, we'll meet again to study Mandukya Karika today evening. So that will go on again as usual. So Om Namo Narayanaya. Thank you and Namaskar to all of you. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Priyatam Pundari Kakshah Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi. Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Sorry, I didn't give the time for the question and answer session. So even now, if you have any questions, you can ask. Any questions of what we have discussed today or any doubts about spiritual life, now you can ask. So there are no questions on the YouTube live chat. Are there any questions here, the Google Meet or live? So there are no questions. So we shall end our session. Om Namo Narayanaya.